Today I'm reacting to your WWE Evolution 2025 Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether those are good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you're following me on X because I ask for your hot takes there after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. And you're not going to have a lot of time to breathe because SummerSlam, our first two-night SummerSlam, is in just 3 weeks. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. By the way, if you do want more than just the daily wrestling content that we upload here, consider coming over to the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap, where we upload so much more extra content that never gets uploaded here. So go check it out. Link in the description or link in the pinned comment. All right, let's see what you guys sent in. WWE should be ashamed for what they did to Io Sky during her reign. Putting her in catering since WrestleMania is one of the most garbage things I've seen them do these past few years. Io Sky's reign will always be one of these what ifs in WWE history. What if WWE actually tried with Io Sky as a champion? Because I'll never understand why in the world you would take one of your most talented and one of your most popular WWE superstars in the women's division and basically hide her away from us for 2 months after WrestleMania. Was she injured? I don't know. They never communicated that. So here I am with all of you just having to assume that WWE just didn't see value in Io Sky as a champion and promoting her and showcasing her, which is an absolutely bananas thing to even think about. At the very minimum, I'm glad that she went out with one of the singular best women's matches in WWE history that I've ever seen. That match was absolutely incredible, and if anything, served to prove to the WWE that they were in the wrong, desperately in the wrong, for keeping Io Sky away from us for all of those months. I hope that now that she's lost the championship, that maybe WWE can find something for her. I know that Becky Lynch might need a new dancing partner for that IC championship picture, and Becky Lynch versus Io Sky sounds like a pretty awesome matchup to me, if you ask me. Naomi cashing in on Io Sky and Rhea Ripley is one of the biggest swerves in the history of professional wrestling. Everyone expected her to cash in on Tiffany Stratton. It is a rare thing that I can genuinely be caught off guard. Normally, if it's a swerve that I didn't see coming, it feels like a swerve for the sake of a swerve, something that nobody in a million years could have predicted, mostly because it's a really stupid decision. But this here, the swerve of having Naomi not cash in on the feud involving Jade Cargill and instead cashing in during this insane match between Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, was a good decision in my opinion, but also a genuinely shocking one because I absolutely did not see this coming. I, like everyone else, was just expecting a pretty traditional cash in on the feud that she was currently in involving Jade Cargill. To me, that made very, very natural sense. And the way that her match against Jade Cargill ended with her going through a table with a top rope Jaded made me believe that, yeah, she's out of commission for the rest of the night, so I can sit back and enjoy Io Sky and Rhea Ripley without the stress of a potential cash in. And then boom, I got punched in the nose. My nose got broken. I am shocked, but I'm also very, very pleased. Genuinely one of the best cash-ins that I've ever seen. One of the best crowd reactions for a cash-in that I've ever seen. I think this is the best women's cash-in at the very minimum. One of the worst endings that Triple H has ever booked. Naomi should have waited until SummerSlam to cash in on the WWE Women's title between Tiffany and Jade to further extend the rivalry between Naomi and Jade, therefore giving us a storyline that would make more sense. I mean, I think that you're exaggerating heavily by calling this one of the worst endings. Even if you don't like the idea of Naomi cashing in, this is not an absolute worst ending that Triple H has ever booked. There's been significantly worse. But I'm going to try and see where you're coming from because I actually understand your perspective. It absolutely made way, way, way more sense for Naomi to cash in on Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill because, like you said, that storyline has been developed. There is clear progression as to what could happen next if Naomi were to cash in on Tiffany and Jade Cargill. They were nurturing that. They were kindling that, trying to turn that into a fire post SummerSlam. So that's why I thought that they were going to go down that route. But as it turns out, that was all a misdirection. WWE went like this and then like this and then, well, oh my God, look at this. And I appreciate that. I think it was a really well executed misdirection that really had all of us looking this way when WWE was running up the court that way. So again, I want to reiterate, I think it's a gross over exaggeration to say this is the worst ending that Triple H has ever booked. Even if you don't like the Naomi cash in, champion, but I get what you're saying, because it certainly makes a lot more sense on paper for her to have cashed in on Tiffany and Jade. Triple fraud didn't book Io well, but in-ring wise, this was one of the greatest women's reign in WWE ever. Hey, I do like the optimism in which you're deciding to look at Io's reign with. I guess if you really want to analyze it on a pound for pound basis, yeah, in terms of matches that she had when she was champion, they were all bangers. So she basically batted 100% with how good her matches were, even if there weren't very many. So I do like your optimism. But even if the matches were great that she did have, I still believe that she had so few and appeared so little on WWE TV that I still would consider this one of the worst women's reign that WWE has had in recent time. And to say that is crazy, but it's just the truth. Considering how good the matches were, if you just gave her more, if you just allowed her to appear more on TV, we actually could have been looking at the opposite, one of the best reigns in recent memory. While the whole premium live event cooked, I'm disappointed with the Battle Royale. Don't get me wrong, the match was good, and of course Vaquer is the correct choice, but come on, man, I had so much expectations for any surprise in this match. AJ Lee, Lita, Paige, and so on. That's interesting. I actually thought that the Battle Royale was a bad match with a lot of weird, goofy stuff in there that made me not like what was going on in the ring. To me, what salvaged it was the last 5 minutes, the actual winner itself, the fact that Lash Legend got pushed really hard in that Battle Royale. There was stuff to like, but overall, I didn't actually like the match as a whole. Here's the thing. I think it would have been cool to have legends, like you mentioned, AJ Lee, Paige, Lita, like those would have all induced like huge pops, but I also appreciate and understand what the WWE was going for. We don't need to rely on anybody from the outside. We don't need to rely on TNA knockouts. We don't need to rely on legends from the past. We have such a deep women's roster, and that's what we want to showcase. And to me, that's fair. Yeah, it would have been more hype to get a legend like Alita out there over Tatum Paxley, who lasted 3 seconds. Of course, absolutely. But at the very least, that's WWE giving their own talent a vote of confidence in some way, shape, or form that you are going to shape the future of our women's division, and we don't need to rely on the past. But hey, I'm also a nostalgia merchant from time to time. I, of course, would have lost my absolute mind if AJ Lee and Paige specifically returned. But again, I can understand what WWE was going for by not relying on anybody that wasn't actively in WWE today. There is no other person that should have won besides Stephanie Vaquer. She is going to be in the main event scene for a while, and I'm hoping that she feuds with Tiffy and takes the title. Yeah, I think it was an inevitability. Stephanie Vaquer is so good at this wacky world of professional wrestling. She's really likable as well and really easy to root for. Not to mention the fact that she might actually be the best women's professional wrestler alongside Io Sky, and you've got yourself somebody that you can really depend on and build around for the foreseeable future with Stephanie Vaquer. It is kind of up in the air who she's gonna face, right? I felt like many of us were just sort of sold on the idea of like, okay, yeah, if Stephanie wins, we're happy with Io or Rhea at Clash in Paris. But now with Naomi having won the title, is it gonna be Naomi Stephanie? Because that doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense, but I don't hate it. I would have expected Naomi to go down the path of like a Bianca Belair, for example. Now I think the possibility that we weren't expecting of Stephanie versus Tiffy or Stephanie versus Jade is also on the table now. So this is pretty interesting, uncharted territory right now, because you got to remember that the winner of this gets to pick the champion. It's like winning the Royal Rumble. They get to pick what champion they want, so we don't actually know who she's gonna face yet. Never mind the fact that we literally have SummerSlam in 3 weeks that could fundamentally shape the women's division once again, putting more into question who the hell she could be facing. Damn! Dude, this match is crazy. Oh my, dude, we are 2 minutes in.
Water veins tied to his neck. You are gonna die.
Oh! That was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively over on patreon.com/Santizen. This week we're looking at maybe one of the best matches I've ever seen, Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis in ECW 1995. The Falls Count Anywhere Hollywood ending match between Mariah May and Toni Storm. Braun Breaker versus Ilya Dragunov versus JD McDonough for the NXT Championship at Halloween Havoc 2022. And the ladder match between John Cena and Dolph Ziggler at TLC 2012. You'll be getting this, plus the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the podcast 3 days early, plus a bunch of other series that are exclusively available to Patreon. So come check it out, patreon.com/SantiZap. There's a link in the description or a link in the pinned comment if you're interested in coming over. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. It's because of you that I'm able to do what I do as often as I do it, but now let's get you back into the video. I can't wait for her main roster call-up. She is going to cook. Listen, I'm patient. I'm down to allow Lash Legend to continue to develop down in NXT. I'd like to see Lash Legend get a proper push for a singles title, North American title, NXT women's title. I'm totally fine being patient with Lash Legend because I actually also think that we have something special there with Lash Legend. And I think WWE sees it too because they really made Lash Legend look incredibly strong in that Battle Royale, having her go into the final two with Stephanie Vaquer at points making me genuinely believe that she might win the whole damn thing. WWE clearly sees a bright future for Lash Legend, and honestly, so do I. We always said 7 matches is a good sweet spot, and tonight proved it with great pacing and not being bombarded with ads. Listen, I'm actually a big advocate of the 5-match card. I know that a lot of people don't love it, but I also have seen generations of WWE PLEs have 7, 8, 9, 10 matches where more than half of them are under 10 minutes, which is why I have personally enjoyed the Triple H era of 5 matches where matches go for 10, 15, 20 minutes a pop. But that being said, we're now even seeing those get diluted even more by the addition of more ads and more hype packages and just more fluff in general. This didn't feel that way. This felt like what I want out of PLEs. This was a 7-match card where all of the matches got ample time. The shortest match, yeah, was 8 minutes, but it was a really solid 8 minutes. Tiffany Stratton versus Trish Stratus. If WWE can consistently replicate this, a 7-match card where everyone gets time, not just, hey, they went out there and they got 30 seconds, or they went out there and they started brawling so they didn't actually get to have a match. If they can do 7 matches this tight, this concise, with giving them enough time to truly be able to give themselves an actual identity, then yeah, let's expand it to 7. I'm just nervous to say that because, again, maybe I have a little bit of trauma from that era where we'd have 7+ PLE matches and most of them would be under 5 minutes. But I just think that the roster is just too deep right now when you include the men and the women. Clearly, if the women can put on a certified banger 7-match PLE on their own, how can we now then moving forward justify 4 or 5-match PLEs that include both men and the women? Clearly, a bunch would be left off by the wayside. The talent pool is just too big to only allow for 4 to 5 matches now, as we've clearly seen. WWE needs to evolve. Again, I think they've done a great job with the 5-match card structure that they've had, but the roster's just too damn big, brother, and too damn good. Evolution 1000% needs to be a yearly event. Yeah, it really bummed me out that Triple H wouldn't just say, yeah, this is going to be a yearly thing. Clearly, they're going to need to look at the numbers. I don't know if the numbers are going to be good. I do see that ticket sales were better than originally reported because going into the show, they had reported that they only had 4,000 tickets sold. It looks like once everything was said and done, they sold about 8,000. That arena felt packed at the very least. They were really loud. I think it's going to be seen as a critical acclaim success. Now we'll have to just sort of wait and see, and fingers crossed that it's a financial success, because at the end of the day, that's all TKO and WWE will give a single fuck about. But do I want to see this be yearly? Absolutely. I'd like to see the yearly Battle Royale at Evolution. Absolutely, 1,000,000%. With or without the title, I need Naomi and Jade to keep feuding for the rest of the year and have a Hell in a Cell match. Their hatred for each other is just so damn fun to watch. John, I'm actually kind of ready to move on, not because I wasn't entertained by Jade and Naomi. I think that they had a solid match at WrestleMania 41, and I think that they topped it here at Evolution with all of the fun spots, but Jade won both the matches, right? Like, if we wanted this to have a Hell in a Cell match, then Naomi needed to win at the very least one of them so that we can further justify having a rubber match. But this is a feud that very clearly Jade Cargill has won, and because of that, I'm personally good to move on and see new things. And I think that's what WWE is basically telling us by giving the title to Naomi and basically forcefully switching her brands away from Jade Cargill. We might still see Jade Cargill versus Naomi, by the way, at the Crown Jewel event if they both happen to be champions going into that show in early October. I think having Io lose, but Rhea not winning the title because of Naomi was a fantastic idea, and it doesn't hurt any of their characters at all. If anything, it makes things more interesting. I'm so glad I witnessed my first cash-in. If that was your first cash-in, you witnessed an awesome one. Like, genuinely, it's gonna be hard to top that cash-in for you for the rest of your life. But here's the thing, I also love the fact that they hit us with this swerve, predominantly because it looked to be such a foregone conclusion that Rhea Ripley was going to win and walk out with the title and celebrate with the pyro, because the story that they were telling was that she has never been able to beat Io Sky. And I thought, man, if they're making that the story, making that the motivation, there's no way that Rhea doesn't win. But what they hit us with, it wasn't that Rhea didn't win, it's that she didn't even have a chance to win because the win was stolen from her. And I think that that is a brilliant way to continue the Rhea and Io saga for years to come, which clearly, as they've demonstrated to the world, no one should ever once again be complaining about Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley happening. But yeah, the swerve was fun because it allowed Io and Rhea to both be protected, both look strong. The fact that Rhea has still not been able to beat Io, while also giving us an awesome moment to close the show with like a genuine shock of Naomi cashing in her Money in the Bank briefcase. It was all executed so well. Blake Monroe turning heel was genius. While she works well as a babyface, she is far better as a heel. The dumb blonde who is secretly a devious, conniving mastermind is one of the best archetypes in all of writing. They really just sped run this, huh? They really just said, hey, we need Blake Monroe as a heel and we need to do this as fast as possible. Because clearly it had to have been her heel work that got her signed by the WWE. The reason why WWE went out of their way to make sure that they could get Blake Monroe in free agency, because her heel work in AEW was literally like just generationally good. Like genuinely, like I know many of you here on this page only watch WWE. If you had to watch one thing from AEW, please like take my word for it and watch the entire saga of Toni Storm and Mariah May. This is what WWE is paying for. This is what WWE signed. Heel Blake Monroe. This is what they wanted. Like I said, I'm shocked that they decided to go into it this quickly, considering they brought her in as a babyface. I mean, you might as well have just have brought her in as a heel in the first place, but I think WWE wanted the heel turn for all of us on a big stage like Evolution, which, by the way, it's cool that they had such a major storyline from NXT play out the way that it did on a main roster show. I really, really like that, as opposed to having this play out on a random episode of Tuesday Night NXT with far less viewership. Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky may just be the best wrestling, not just women's wrestling, match that I've ever seen, and easily one of the best matches in the last 5 to 10 years at least. I think I'm pretty confident when I say, and I'm purely talking about favorites here, I'm not gonna sit down and analyze this like some sort of doctorate paper as to whether it's the best match in women's history, but right now I will say that I think that this is my favorite women's match of all time. Granted, the list is like brutal at the top, right? Because you've got Sasha Bailey up there, you've got Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks, Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair is really high up on my list, but when I encapsulate everything that was part of this, including the women's version of Heist of the Century, I think this is my favorite women's match of all time. Best single night PLE of the year so far. All the credit to the women, creative and corporate did them no favors, and they still put out the best PLE of the year so far. That is so true. They really, really set this show up to fail. I really believe that rather than giving the women the ability to sink or swim, they started by drowning them, and as it turns out, that doesn't work because the women are so damn talented that they just swam through it anyway. I also think that this is the best PLE of the entire year, like pound for pound for WWE. Like, sure, obviously, like WrestleMania had bigger moments, but there were a lot of lows, especially like the ultimate low at WrestleMania 41. So I would say that this is better than WrestleMania 41. I think this was better than the Royal Rumble, albeit the Rumble was really solid. I actually think this is better than Elimination Chamber, and I thought Elimination Chamber was a really, really good show. Definitely better than the Night of Champions, and definitely better than Money in the Bank. I genuinely think pound for pound, this was the best show of the entire year, and they pulled it off on a 2-week notice. Naomi versus Bianca Belair should be the SummerSlam Night 1 main event. Tyler, I do think that they're going towards Naomi and Bianca Belair, but aren't you a little bit surprised, at least I am, that they didn't really do anything to build Naomi versus Bianca Belair, considering Bianca Belair was the special guest referee? Really, when you think about it, Bianca was just a regular referee. She didn't really do anything special in that match. Normally when you have a special guest referee, the relationship between the referee and those that are in the ring sometimes supersedes things and leads to shenanigans and leads to feuds between the competitors and the referee, but that wasn't the case here, and I did find that a little bit bizarre. I do think Naomi versus Bianca is going to happen, but they need to really get that moving immediately. Charlotte went from getting booed to just existing to getting a pop for just getting in the ring. This version of hers is extremely likable since she doesn't just waltz in for a title opportunity, but is instead struggling. Tonight's loss makes me interested in what comes next. I was genuinely laughing when I heard "We want Charlotte" chants in that match. She was getting the loudest pops out of anybody. And what timeline are we in? How did the worlds and the universes shift and collapse so quickly that we went from Charlotte Flair being public enemy number one, where people online were celebrating all of her divorces, to now her getting the biggest pops of the night? Like, that's a crazy shift. I've been a Charlotte Flair my entire life. I've never deviated from liking Charlotte Flair. I've absolutely understood the criticism, and I certainly understood the criticism earlier this year that she just waltzes in and wins everything. I've always made the joke, death, taxes, and Charlotte Flair winning something she doesn't need to win when she comes back from injury. That's exactly how the year started off. But it's just so fascinating what a simple little character shift in a different type of push and a different type of storyline can do for the overall image of somebody, because now people love Charlotte. And honestly, I want to see this Charlotte and Alexa Bliss team continue to blossom. I want them to win the tag championships. And yeah, inevitably, I want them to implode and maybe have a WrestleMania match. This picture perfectly sums up my reaction to Charlotte getting legitimate babyface cheer in 2025. I need more of "We're Not Friends." This was actually my favorite little micro moment within the match. I just thought this was awesome, adorable, that Charlotte would go out of her way, the queen that only cares for herself, to save Alexa Bliss from the most devastating spear in women's wrestling right now, Zarya, and not only save her from it, but then like embrace her, comfort her, cuddle her. It was just so, I don't know, so out of left field for this Charlotte character to see this particular image. Somebody that's been so lone wolf, not by her own desire to be lone wolf, but because everyone hated her in storylines. So this is cool. I really want to see more from this team. The allies of convenience, "We're Not Friends," love it. Nikki Bella doesn't deserve the hate that she gets. She did really well in the Battle Royale and promoted Evolution so much to a larger audience. The fans in attendance were so loud for her. Listen, I'm not a big Nikki Bella fan. I think I've been pretty clear about that. I certainly don't hate Nikki Bella. She definitely gets a tremendous amount of hate online. Things that just are not necessary to be said are constantly said about Nikki Bella. But yeah, I thought that she had a great performance in that Battle Royale. I got a little bit nervous that she was actually going to win the damn thing, something that I actually did not want to see. But nonetheless, I think it's great to have her there. I think that she was a great ambassador for the show overall. I wouldn't mind if she stuck around and had more storylines and more feuds. Something that I suggested is I would love for Nikki Bella to put over like a Julia or something, help build the women's mid-card before she fully sunsets away from the WWE. If any title was going to change hands, it should have been this one. Bayley should have won. I'm totally cool with Becky retaining here, but I would have been cool with Lyra winning, and I certainly also would have been cool with Bayley winning. You know what that means? WWE did a wonderful, fantastic job at building all three of the women to be people that you would like to see win the Intercontinental Championship, and that is a rarity in these types of matches. This was easily the best built match of the entire weekend for all of WWE. After that match ended, I was certain that that was going to be the best match that WWE puts on the entire weekend as well. I didn't think that there was going to be a match that could top it on the Evolution show. Then we got Io versus Rhea, but this match was also truly fantastic, and I had really high expectations for it, and they didn't hit the expectations. They absolutely blew them out of the water. This match was truly fantastic, and I'm personally excited about the idea of Becky Lynch maybe starting with somebody new. I threw out the idea of maybe Becky versus Io. That's a huge match, but basically Becky versus anybody right now is something that would be must watch in my eyes. Or if they want to continue Becky versus Bayley versus Lyra or any combination of those three, I'm also down for that. That is, to me, a demonstration of what a great champion she is. So that Becky Hogan sign that was in the arena, I didn't like seeing that because I think that Becky Lynch has been nothing short of amazing at helping put other people over, even if she is winning. Lyra Valkyria is proper over. She is over as a babyface, and it is in huge part to Becky Lynch's feud. Absolutely amazing match. Everyone was on their game, even Sol Ruca with her third match in a row. Massive cheers for Charlotte. Almost makes me want to take care of this dead division. In all seriousness, absolute banger. It's so funny that this division doesn't exist. This division, the people in this match, is what they made the division out of in the past 2 weeks. This division is basically 2 weeks old. And somehow in 2 weeks, they've managed to create more interesting storylines and have better matches than the garbage ass Raw men's tag team division has been able to over the past year and a half. Someone make that make sense. Like genuinely, somebody please make that make sense. If that was it, hopefully not, what a way to go out. This was actually the match that I thought had the most potential to be bad, but it wasn't bad. It was very good. It was the shortest match, but in the 8 minutes that they got, I thought that we got a wonderful wrestling match out of those two. It was a quick reminder that Trish Stratus, brother, it's not that you still got it. She never lost it in the first place. If Trish Stratus was genuinely still with the WWE full time, we would be so much better off with that because she's just so damn talented at this game of pro wrestling. I don't think that that was her retirement. I think that moment in the ring was to really give her props for helping bring women's wrestling to where it is today, to the point where they're having a big PLE in 2025. I don't think that they would have ran a Trish Stratus retirement match angle on the same weekend as Goldberg. So I'm still fully expecting a proper retirement for Trish Stratus somewhere down the line. Who knows? Maybe Evolution next year is where they call it quits for Trish Stratus. Normally, I would hate when someone wins by a roll-up, but that pin by Becky was incredibly good. Woo! Dude, that was maybe the nicest spin that I've seen in the last 10 years. That was some smooth criminal type shit. That's how the WrestleMania 35 match should have ended, with this type of roll-up, because that was so nice, so clean, so crisp. That was a type of roll-up that you could have easily screwed that up. If both Becky and Bayley weren't perfectly in sync because of their great chemistry with one another, that pin would have looked stupid, but they made it look like the cleanest pin since like a Kurt Angle pin in the Ruthless Aggression era days. All right, folks, we'll leave it there. That was a wonderful show. Thank you so much for joining us for today's video. We'll see you guys in the next one. That was a long ass weekend. I might go get some sleep now, or maybe like trim my beard because I'm starting to look freaking gross. That's it. Goodbye. Get out of here.